Yugoloths, also called daemons, are neutral evil fiends home to Gehenna and Hades. They are the mercenaries of the Blood War, fighting for both devils and demons depending on who the highest bidder is. They completely lack loyalty, turning on their employers for greater payment by another. Demons are chaotic evil. They give in to their emotions and base impulses. They give in to the pleasures of flesh and mind. They love destroying what others have built, they revel in the torment of others, and they wish to have control over everyone. They loathe authority and are motivated by independence, the true freedom to do whatever they want, whenever they want, no matter how it affects others. Devils are lawful evil. They tend to crave the higher sins. They want to command armies and rule nations. They want to torture those who have broken the law, even if that law was maliciously written to be as confusing as possible to ensure someone would accidentally break it while doing something that appears innocent. They follow the orders of their superiors out of fear of torment, and they scheme to cause their boss to lose face so that they may be promoted to take their place. They are motivated by their desire to control others, enforce the laws they want, and excel the Batazu race. Both devils and demons recruit souls to join their side in the Blood War, so that they may wipe out the other and reshape the lower planes to more closely match the alignment they identify with. But Yugoloths, they are neutral evil. They will corrupt a soul with a cleverly written contract if they think that will work best for that individual, but they will corrupt another by giving them the opportunity to act on their impulses. If direct force and threat of death is the easiest way to get a less intelligent mortal to follow their command, then they will utilize it, but against others, they might dangle their desires in front of them so that they devote their time to gaining that over all others, and then move that treasure around to manipulate them into doing their bidding. They will write up a contract and follow through if it suits them, or throw it away and renege if that accomplishes their goals in a more efficient manner. Yugoloths do not care about winning a war. They are not motivated by advancing their race or by their individual craving of freedom. No, they are motivated solely by evil. Evil that is untainted by law and chaos. They wish to bring the entire multiverse to understand this perfect ideology and become ascendant over all creatures. Their lives are solely dedicated to dragging more souls to the side of darkness, and they will do whatever it takes to achieve that. They do not represent the rampant destructive evil that demons do, nor do they embody the tyrannical evil devils do. They are manifestations of pure evil, and it is commonly believed that there is nothing more evil than them in the entire multiverse. To quote a Gitzurai researcher of Yugoloths, who wished to be unnamed as to not become a target, "Fear the Batazu, they are cold and cunning disciplinarians. Fear the Tanari, they are brutal, bloodthirsty killers. But most of all, fear the Yugoloths. They are masks of mystery, and no matter how many layers of skin you peel away, you will never know how many still lie between you and their true face. Spawned on the Grey Waste, the very heart of evil, and nourished on Gehenna, the very forge of unforgiving brutality, the Yugoloth race is notorious for the ill ends to which it applies its manipulative genius. Pray that their plans, whatever they may be, never come to fruition." End quote. Before I start, let me explain the organization of this video. So, because of the Planescape campaign setting from 2nd edition, 2nd edition has hands down the most lore on Yugoloths. I mean, it has the most lore on most things in D&D, but it's especially true for the Loths. Because of this, anytime I state a piece of information and don't preface it by saying what edition of the game that particular piece of lore is from, assume that it's from 2nd edition and that the other editions either agree with it or don't say anything at all. If another edition says something different, I will explicitly point it out. One more thing, the same way that the Tanari are also called demons and the Batazu are also called devils, another name for Yugoloths is daemons. That's what they were originally called in 1st edition, and then it was changed in 2nd edition because of the Satanic Panic, and then afterward, Tanari and Batazu went back to being called demons and devils, but Yugoloths just stayed Yugoloths because it's a really cool sounding name, and probably because having something called demons and daemons be two different things is a little confusing. 3rd edition sometimes uses the word daemon as well, but 5th edition seems to have completely gotten rid of it. So anytime I say daemon, just know I'm talking about the Yugoloths. First, let's start at the beginning. Where do Yugoloths come from? According to 2nd edition, in the beginning, primal forces fought each other over what the multiverse should be. Law against chaos and good against evil. Eventually, good merged with law and chaos, and so did evil, entering a new stage. But no matter what, the forces remained equal, and none could take any more ground over the field of neutrality. They realized their struggles would amount to nothing and created minions to work as agents for their philosophies. The force of evil created the Bernoloths, creatures of sagacious wisdom and unbridled cunning. They pondered for an unimaginable amount of time on how to serve their patron, and eventually, on the gray waste of Hades, created the Yugoloths, the only creation that seeks perfection. Other races claim their goal is to reach this ideal state, but are tainted by weak philosophies. Only the Yugoloths truly court perfection. Only the Yugoloths can bring all the multiverse to the understanding of this force, the pure essence of evil. Early Yugoloths were obstructed by the ideas of law and chaos, dealing with warring natures and questions of ethics in pursuit of perfection. One of the first Ultraloths, who would later become the General of Gehenna, leader of the Yugoloths, created a gem called the Heart of Darkness, which they used to purify the Yugoloths, extracting the law and chaos from them and putting it into nearby larvae, which were then herded into the Abyss and Beator, eventually evolving into the first Tanari and Batazu. Since they still carry the essence of the Yugoloths, they will be controlled when the Yugoloths are once again ready to extend their dominion over the planes. Now, this is all according to the Book of Derelict Magics, a Yugoloth history book. Since it was written by Yugoloths, who have a reputation for being filthy liars, and they do not allow non-Yugoloths to look at their records, it's unlikely that this is completely true. Also, some people report that they have spoken to Bernoloths and that they deny creating the Yugoloths, but they do admit to having given advice and aid to them. According to 4th edition, Yugoloths were actually distant cousins of demons, a subspecies created by an unknown demon prince. During the Spell Plague, Asmodeus hurled the Abyss into the elemental chaos, the daemons sided with the demons, and they were welcomed into the fold. That's why I can't really find a lot of lore about Yugoloths from 4th edition, because in 4e, they were just considered demons. In 5th edition, the first Yugoloths were created by a sisterhood of night hags on Gehenna, commissioned by Asmodeus in hope of creating an army of fiends that were not bound by the 9 hells. While doing so, the hags recorded the true name of every Yugoloth, except one, the General of Gehenna, in 4 tomes called the Books of Keeping, in order to ensure their loyalty. They also recorded other fiends' names in these, and rumors say a few demon lords and archdevils have their names in these tomes. Jealousy and bickering caused the sisterhood to dissolve, and the Books of Keeping were either lost or stolen. The Yugoloths are now free and independent, and they offer their services to the highest bidder. Now, that information from 5th edition is from the Monster Manual, and it makes no reference to the Bernoloths. However, Bernoloths were recently added to 5th edition in the new Planescape box set, and here's what that has to say about them. It says that they are a type of Yugoloth, however, the Books of Keeping makes no mention of them, leading some to believe that they were created by a primal evil power before other Yugoloths, or that they come from an epic before the current manifestation of the planes, which leads credence to the original 2nd edition origin story. So to recap, the Yugoloths claim to have created the demons and devils, the devils claim to have created the Yugoloths, and the demons claim to have created the Yugoloths. Now, this history of lies, contradictions, and conflicting timelines is what you should expect when dealing with daemons. This is what they want, for everyone to be confused and unsure about them, for people to think they know the truth, when in reality they only know exactly what the Loths want them to know. Psychology. Yugoloths are masters of manipulation. They will do whatever they possibly can to trick someone into doing what they want them to do. How do they do this? Well, flattery for the insecure, gold for the greedy, power for the would-be tyrants. Everyone has something they desire most, and Yugoloths find that out and put it right in front of them. Yugoloths give them just enough to taste it, to be intrigued and want more, but let them do the actual work themselves. They will pursue that end to the exclusion of all others, and the fiends are their only way of getting more. They are merely puppets now, and will do whatever their masters choose. The Yugoloth race is known for keeping vast secrets about the things they have done to alter the multiverse. If someone discovers them, they will deny it, gaslight the questioner into believing they were wrong. If they are caught red-handed manipulating someone, they will acknowledge it but shake it off as a one-time thing, a rare occurrence of a petty level compared to most rumors about them. They lie constantly, they spin wheels within wheels, but of course you wouldn't trust a fiend. You expect them to lie. But they know that you know they are lying, so maybe they tell the truth to throw you off, or use that lie to distract you from a different lie. You know that they know that you know they are lying, however they also know that you know that they know that you know they are lying. But if that's the case, at least you know. But do they know that you know? See what I mean? They can't be trusted, ever. Yugoloths are also the embodiment of avarice. Before serving under anyone's banner, a Yugoloth asks the only question on its mind: what's in it for me? They are mercenaries working for the highest bidder, but they display a complete lack of loyalty. They will turn on their employer for greater payment by another. Those who use Yugoloths as mercenaries must have power over them before entering battle. Unlike demons, Yugoloths can be reasoned with, but unlike devils, they are rarely true to their word. To quote the tiefling Inkilo the Sly on how Yugoloths deal with mortals, thinking about hiring on with a Loth mercenary company, or maybe offering to sell one some chant on the Blood War, or even calling one up from Gehenna and forcing it to do some of your dirty work? Well, here's a tip, Burke. Remember that the Batazu and Tanari, two of the most vile, dangerous, and experienced races on the plains, are like clay in the hands of the Yugoloths, molded and shaped as needed. Imagine how much trouble a Loth had pulling your strings, a puny mortal who ain't even been alive as long as it takes to fight a minor Blood War skirmish. The best way to deal with the Yugoloths is to keep out of their knowledge. See, the Lost think killing mortals is a waste of resources. They'd much rather peel the sods into carrying out their dark plans for them. That way, if the truth of a scheme ever comes to light, the mortals are likely to take the blame. And even though plenty of folks know how sneaky the Yugoloths are, they still fall for the fiendish tricks more often than not. It seems that Loths just have an uncanny knack for appealing to a mortal's greed, ego, sense of self-preservation, and the like. You name it, they'll take advantage of it." End quote. Culture. Quote, "Yugoloths have a highly advanced society developed toward the pursuit and purity of evil. They have created a system that focuses the innate wickedness of their race and encourages a cold and straightforward march toward the realization of their master plan." End quote. The Lupinal Mowat Kaman, researcher of Yugoloth lore. Essential beliefs. The Yugoloth race believes in manipulation and the skillful twisting of words and deeds to achieve their goals. Their entire hierarchy is based around running things from behind the scenes. Many Yugoloths are weaker in strength than the many inferiors they command, and so their culture rests on the basis of the bluff. They convince their subordinates of their power and the might of the hierarchy above them, threatening to bring the power of the whole race down on them if they make a mistake. Now, it can't be all bluff, or else their entire society would have fallen the first time an inferior tested its superior's bluff. Yugoloths have accumulated a wealth of power over the years that they can call on if they are ever tested physically. Yugoloths are taught, bred, and evolved toward dispassion. They are taught about emotions, to understand them, but are also taught how to dispel them from themselves. They are cold creatures, logical and intuitive to the extreme, using emotions as they use any other tool, to manipulate. However, ridding your entire being of emotion is not as easy or permanent as one might think. They say that Anthraxis, the previous Oinoloth, genuinely hates his rival who deposed him. Several Cardinals on Elysium claim to have unleashed deeply veiled emotions within some Arcanoloths in order to better vanquish them. Politics and caste. Yugoloth society, similar to that of the Batazu, although Loths despise this comparison, is one of caste. The greater rule the lesser through might, magic, and force of will. Mutiny is tolerated at the lower ranks, but the higher ones should know better. A distinct chain of command runs from the Ultraloths all the way down to the Mesoloths, but each fiend within the same rank is of equal status. One Hydroloth is no better than any other Hydroloth. In 2nd edition, that is. 1st edition states that each rank of daemons is dominated by the strongest and most intelligent member of its type. If you want to know how this caste system is arranged, who's above who, and how they're promoted from one station to the next, stay tuned for my next video that will cover the Yugoloth hierarchy. The scheming for advancement within Yugoloth culture is much more subtle than even that of the Batazu. They prefer to keep their politics on a mental and verbal level. Every now and then it degenerates into combat where they bring their subordinates and allies into what becomes a free-for-all of various cabals struggling for domination. When the fight ends, factions realign, and only the canniest of the Yugoloths know who's really on which side. Manipulation. Yugoloths excel at manipulation, crafting intricate schemes that appear deceptively simple. Their plans often elude full comprehension, leading one to see only what the fiends want them to see. It would be impossible to list every scheme of theirs, as they are experts at covering their tracks. To Yugoloths, every being in the multiverse is a pawn in their game, including their own kind. Each Yugoloth believes it orchestrates the ultimate scheme, even as it unwittingly plays into the designs of its peers. I can't explain it as well as he can, so I'm going to quote the Lupinal Mowat Kaman again. How do they become so devious, so callous? Imagine, dear reader, that your closest friend, the being you trust most in the entire world, is suddenly revealed to have been molding you to his needs and goals all along. How do you react? With shock and dismay, certainly. With self-loathing for letting yourself be fooled, and you resolve not to make the same mistake with the next being you choose to befriend. But it happens again, and again, over and over, until you become untrusting, using others to see if they have the integrity to treat you as you deserve. By then, of course, you can clearly see how much smarter you are than everyone else, how you can manipulate others to your ends, and then you discover, once again, that you've been molded. The evolution continues. Though you see the pattern, indeed, though you set the pattern all around you, you come to realize that there's something greater. You feel no passion for your inferiors. They can be, should be, nothing but your unwitting pawns. Now you look to control the thing that controls you. So it is with the Yugoloths." End quote. Magic. Most Yugoloths don't have the patience or wish to study magic, preferring to leave it to mortals they have enslaved. However, there are a few exceptions. Yagnoloths learn destructive, damaging spells such as Lightning Bolt and Cone of Cold in order to better protect themselves from other Yugoloths, since they are the most hated within their kind. Arcanoloths are natural mages, mastering a balance of destructive and utility spells. They are all at least 12th level wizards. Ultraloths don't become wizards as often as one would expect. Despite their intelligence and power, they're used to having everything done for them by their inferiors. A few study here and there, but they prefer to bend slave mages to their will. I find it interesting that most Ultraloths aren't spellcasters, even though to become an Ultraloth, you have to be promoted to one from Arcanoloth, and all Arcanoloths are spellcasters, so that seems to imply that they lose some of their skills upon promotion, at least when it comes to spellcasting, but I don't think they lose their memories. Religion. Yugoloths have nothing to do with the gods, and no Yugoloth has ever become a priest. Language. They have telepathy like other fiends, but they prefer to speak directly when dealing with non-Yugoloths to ensure they convey exactly the message they intended. They also use telepathy for more casual conversation, while they reserve spoken language for important and sensitive topics. Anyone with the right spell can eavesdrop on telepathy, but even a learned sage who knows the language you're speaking may not pick up on hidden meaning and subtle codes woven into the conversation. Yugoloths do have their own language, and it is said to be complex, quote, reminding one both of the stench of decaying roses and the whisper of wind blowing across the sand, end quote. Nearly every word has two different meanings, so whenever they speak, they are delivering at least two different messages. Less intelligent, lesser Yugoloths, such as Mesoloths and Durgoloths, are not good at this, and when attempting to incorporate hidden meanings, oftentimes end up obscuring all meaning. The higher-ranking Yugoloths are more skilled at the art of incorporating multiple intents, and thus their vocabulary and message are more complex than lesser Loths. No mortal has ever mastered the speech beyond the level of a Nikoloth. Some say even the Pit Fiends and Baelors cannot unravel the secret tongue of the Ultraloths. Rumor has it the corruption of the speech is so absolute that if one did master it, they would become a Yugoloth. The Blood War. Yugoloths are the mercenaries of the Blood War, working for both Tanari and Batazu for pay. They're known for treachery, betraying their employer if there's more money in doing so, but both sides still utilize their services out of fear that if they don't, the other side will have advantage by having all their armies. The truth is, Yugoloths steer the entire direction of the Blood War. They started the Blood War as an experiment designed to strengthen the cause of evil, and they've controlled it ever since. Although they seem to be motivated by wealth, their betrayals are actually carefully planned out to ensure that a particular side comes out on top. Yugoloth mercenaries are among the most formidable fighting forces in the Blood War. Though organized, they are still independent. They only work together to better themselves. They act as a team, but they also think on their own, and that's a major element in the success of the Yugoloth race. I will explain how their mercenary armies are structured in my next video on their hierarchy. Physiology. Gender. The idea of gender is just not important to the Yugoloths. In terms of sex, all Yugoloths are hermaphroditic. They can bear or sire young. When two mate, the one who fathers the offspring is considered male, and the one who carried it is marked as female. But outside of that, they present however they feel in the moment. Most of the time they present as neither, but if a situation would benefit from presenting as one over the other, such as dealing with mortals and trying to seduce or gain sympathy, they may present as the most beneficial one in that moment. Reproduction. Whenever two lesser Yugoloths mate, they always produce a Mesoloth, the lowest ranking of the Yugoloth race. It is always a young Mesoloth, which must be raised to adulthood before it can ever be promoted. Greater Yugoloths can only mate with another Yugoloth of the same type, and their offspring are always the same rank. Two Nikoloths mating will always produce a litter of young Nikoloths, and the parents will force them to fight to the death to see which earns the right to grow to adulthood. Two Arcanoloths will always create a young Arcanoloth that is trained in negotiations. However, training is no substitute for experience. An Arcanoloth that promoted its way from Mesoloth over the course of thousands of years will always be better than those born as Arcanoloths. Those born into this position usually serve as scribes in the Tower of the Arcanoloths. Ultraloths can give birth asexually without a partner, but their offspring are always young Arcanoloths and end up filling more mundane roles within the hierarchy. Ultraloths don't create more Ultraloths because their position is pure reward. You really have to work hard in order to reach the top of the chain. You can't just be born there. Unlike demons and devils who replenish their ranks with the souls of the damned, Yugoloths cannot be created from petitioners. Instead, whenever a Yugoloth truly dies, a Mesoloth is spawned either near the Wasting Tower on Hades or the Tower of Arcanoloths on Gehenna. However, this only keeps their number constant. The only way to increase their population is via procreation. However, Yugoloths only want the very best in their ranks, and since Yugoloths born into higher ranks have less experience than those promoted there, they discourage mating, at least among the greater Loths. Sustenance. Yugoloths are carnivores, although there is a little bit more to it than that. See, Loths love taking life. Eating is a symbolic gesture of contempt toward the rest of the multiverse. The freshness of the meat and how horrifically the creature died are both very important to them and alter the taste. Lesser Yugoloths love meat of a creature that was quaking in terror. Anger, angst, despair, and all negative emotions put unique flavors into the meat that Yugoloths love. The greater Loths care less about the emotional flavorings and tend to value a different aspect depending on the rank. Nikoloths enjoy rotted flesh, savoring the decay and all that it symbolizes. Arcanoloths love bone marrow to represent that they drain life from the inside out. Ultraloths enjoy every single part of the victims they eat. They devour the pain and love, the glee and anger. They'd even eat the very souls if the gods would let them. Breathing. Now, devils require oxygen to breathe, but they need significantly less than mortals do. Demons also breathe air, but they can survive particularly toxic environments that would kill a mortal. I could not find any information on if Yugoloths need to breathe or not, and that's because this information for demons and devils comes from the 3.5 edition Fiendish Codex 1 and 2, and Yugoloths never got a Fiendish Codex. But I would assume it's similar to the other fiends, meaning that they do need to breathe air, but they don't require as much and they could probably survive in lethal to mortal environments. Sleep. Lesser Yugoloths sleep the same way mortals do, by lying down on a surface and falling asleep. They require 3 hours of sleep for every 21 hours they are awake. Yugoloths are light sleepers and can wake up at a moment's notice. The most elite of the lesser Yugoloths, the Yagnoloths and the Marinoloths, bury themselves in whatever ground they happen to be standing on, soil, wood, water, or whatever, once every 3 days for 5 hours straight. As far as we know, they don't actually have to bury themselves, they are just mimicking what they see their superiors doing. See, Nicoloths and Arcanoloths actually meld into the essence of the plane. They let the soil, or whatever ground they are in, sink into them, merging with that element and drawing life-giving power directly from the plane. They do this for 9 hours every 9 days. Ultraloths simply disappear for a while. Some say they are going to commune with Baronoloths, others say they disperse themselves into a realm of metaphysical reality and waft on currents throughout the lower planes, but maybe they are simply holing up in a well-guarded tower where they know no one can bother them. Whatever the case, they are only gone for 1 day every decade. Abilities. In 1st edition, all daemons have infravision and ultravision and the following spell-like abilities: detect invisible, read magic, comprehend languages, invisibility, telepathy with creatures of low intelligence or higher, and word of recall, once per day back to their plane of origin. Most of them also get teleport without error at will. In 2nd edition, they can cast the following spells at will: alter self, animate dead, cause disease, charm person, improve phantasmal force, produce flame, and teleport without error. Like most fiends, they can gate in their allies, although Yagnoloths are so hated by all other Yugoloths that they actually don't get this ability, but the rest do. However, most Yugoloths hate being summoned like this on the spot, and if the summoned fiend is as powerful as the one who summoned it, a struggle will undoubtedly ensue. Obviously, if Ultraloth summons something below him, they're going to always obey their orders no matter what out of fear. As a rule of thumb, there is a 25% chance that the summoned Yugoloth turns on the summoner and aids the opponent. If the opponent wins, the traitorous Yugoloth tries to get payment for its help. In 3rd edition, they get 60 feet of dark vision, and they can summon other Yugoloths for 1 hour. In 5th edition, they get 60 feet of blind sight, although Arcanoloths and Ultraloths get 120 feet of true sight. As an action, they can teleport up to 60 feet, although some can replace one of their attacks with this teleport instead of using a whole action. I guess the 5th edition designers figured that giving them the teleport spell at will would be too strong, so they gave them a minor version that's still really useful in combat, but out of combat lacks the traversing capabilities. They can also summon more Yugoloths, however, these summoning rules are present in the monster manual, which only stats 4 Yugoloths. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes adds 6 more Yugoloths, but it doesn't add rules for them to summon more, so rules as written, only Mesoloths, Nicoloths, Arcanoloths, and Ultraloths can summon in 5th edition, but I'm going to assume that was an oversight. Also, the summoning rules in 5th edition have a % chance of failure, where you roll a percentile die, and on a success it summons, and on a failure, they waste their action doing nothing. Resistances. In 1st edition, they take half damage from acid, cold, and magical fire, and they are immune to poison, paralysis, and non-magical weapons. Daemons also had a special version of magic resistance, so the way magic resistance worked in 1st edition is monsters would have a magic resistance of a certain percentage, and this was the chance a spell would fail if cast on them. This number assumed the spellcaster was an 11th level caster, and for each level above or below the caster was, the percentage was adjusted 5% up or down. So, for example, if a monster had a magic resistance of 75% and you were an 8th level wizard casting a spell, it would have a 90% chance of failing, because you would add 15% since he's 3 levels below 11th level. If it succeeded, so if your 10% chance of it working went off, it would work like normal, which might still require a failed saving throw for it to work, so really your odds of the spell actually working are a little lower than 10%. Daemons had a slightly different version of magic resistance that was a little worse. The listed number was for 1st level spells and decreased by 5% for each level above 1st a spell was. So back to the original example, an 8th level wizard casting a 4th level spell against a daemon with 75% magic resistance would have a 75% chance of failure, plus 15% for being 3 levels under 11th, but then minus 15% for the spell being 3 levels above a 1st level spell. Daemon's magic resistance also affected magic items they wanted to use, so if they tried to use a wand of fireballs, they must fail their magic resistance roll in order to use it. Because of this, daemons shied away from most magical items, but will still use magic shields or weapons, which will still have their pluses to hit or defend regardless of their magic resistance. God, that's a mouthful. This is why 5e streamlined stuff. Anyway, in 2nd edition, all Yugoloths are immune to acid, fire, poison, and non-magical iron weapons, but they take full damage from silvered or magical weapons. In 3rd edition, they are immune to poison and acid, and they have a damage reduction 20 on cold, fire, and electricity. In 5th edition, they are immune to poison and acid, and resistant to cold, fire, lightning, and non-magical attacks. They also have magic resistance, advantage on saves against magical effects, and some of the more powerful ones, Arcanoloths and Ultraloths, were also immune to the Charmed condition, and I think Ultraloths got Frightened immunity as well. Weaknesses. Vulnerabilities. In 2nd edition, Yugoloths take double damage from cold damage, except Mezzoloths take normal damage because they make up the bulk of the Yugoloth armies and they evolve this trait to remain alive longer, and Ultraloths take no damage from cold because they are sturdier than the rest of their kind. Limitations. In 1st edition, daemons cannot enter the prime material plane or any of the related inner planes without aid, such as by conjuration, summoning, or a gate spell. Destruction. In 1st edition, lesser daemons slain anywhere are killed forever. Greater daemons only truly die if slain on one of the 3 planes they are native to: Gehenna, Hades, and Tartarus, which is what 1st edition called Carcery. If a greater daemon is slain anywhere else, they will reform in its home plane over the period of 1 year per hit die. In 2nd edition, if a lesser Yugoloth is slain anywhere, they truly die, just like 1st edition. And if a greater Yugoloth is slain in Carcery, Gehenna, or Hades, then it's truly dead, just like 1st edition. Otherwise, it will reform back on the plane on which it was born, taking 10 to 13 years to reshape its physical form from the energies of the land. There are a few exceptions to this in 2nd edition, though. Arcanoloths can only be truly killed if slain while on Gehenna. Neither Carcery or Hades will do. And when slain on Gehenna, its accumulated knowledge makes its way to the Tower of Arcanoloths and is absorbed into the racial memory of all Arcanoloths. For some reason, Durgoloths can reform, even though other Yugoloths can't, and it only takes them a few days instead of 10 to 13 years, as long as they were slain outside the lower planes. It could be that being the bulk of Yugoloth armies, they evolved this trait to remain alive and battle ready. In 5th edition, when any Yugoloth dies outside of Gehenna, they reform back on Gehenna. 5th edition seems to shy away from their native plane being 3 different planes and sticks to Gehenna as being their only native plane. Summoning. In 1st edition, all daemons have personal names they can be summoned with. Lesser daemons have 1 and greater daemons have several. A greater daemon has a 5% chance to hear its name and answer the calling, seeking to return its name to secrecy, usually by slaying the speaker. However, if given a strong alliance and a sufficient reward, a daemon may enter into an alliance, making themselves the superior partner. Otherwise, they despise serving weaker beings. A pentagram will protect a speaker from a summoned daemon. In 2nd edition, because Yugoloths are servants and mercenaries, they are naturally prone to summonings and conjurations by spellcasters. When a mage summons a lower planar being, but not a specific one, there is a 40% chance it is a Yugoloth, otherwise it is a Garaleth. There is an ancient tome penned by an unknown hand called the Book of Keeping. It lists methods of magically summoning and controlling Yugoloths, both lesser and greater, and even lists the true names of some greater Yugoloths. Of course, you need strong protections to do this, otherwise the fiend will devour your life force. And even if you do successfully bind one, it's best to compensate them for their trouble, otherwise you'll be hiding from their wrath for the rest of your life. At least 4 copies of the Book of Keeping is said to exist at the time of writing the Planescape Monstrous Compendium, but by Faces of Evil the Fiends, 6 more have gone into circulation, setting the number to 10. The 5th edition Monster Manual states that the number is back to 4. According to 2nd edition, only Conjurer Specialist wizards can use these tomes. If you don't know the true name of a Yugoloth, meaning you're not calling a specific Loth, but just anyone, it will always be either a Canoloth or a Guardian Yugoloth. That's what those creatures were made for, answering the call when summoned, so real Yugoloths don't have to bother. Guardian Yugoloths can only guard, they can't follow any other instruction given to them by their summoner, and they also require power to command, something that comes naturally to Yugoloths, but a mortal summoner needs a show of strength to have mastered certain mysteries of the multiverse, or else it'll just kill them outright. 5th edition also mentions the Books of Keeping, but instead of being penned by an unknown hand, it specifically says it was created by a sisterhood of night hags commissioned by Asmodeus, as stated earlier in this video. It says that a Yugoloth summoned using its true name, as inscribed in the Books of Keeping, is forced to serve its summoner obediently, but it'll follow its instructions to the letter while looking for opportunities to misinterpret them. It doesn't specify how you would go about doing this, or how long it has to obey you, it just says that it does. Now let's talk about the Maeldur Et Kavurik. Earlier, when talking about the manipulation tactics of the Yugoloths, I said that I couldn't list all the evil schemes and machinations that their race had accomplished throughout history, but I will list one that is fairly recent and extremely relevant to the Blood War. See, demons and devils used to be able to cast Teleport Without Air at will. This allowed them to teleport within the same plane with 0 chances of mishap, or teleport to other planes of existence. However, there was a chance of mishap. Mishap could include death, so this is something they rarely did. They could do this whenever they wanted, as many times as they wanted, although I believe they were restricted to the lower planes. Yugoloths can still do this, but devils and demons have lost this ability. This is because, according to the Yugoloths created the first Batazu and Tanari, and they maintain control over them by means of a mysterious being called the Maeldur Et Kavurik, a giant behemoth twisted and manipulated by the Yugoloths throughout the ages. In reality, it was a Solar from Mount Celestia who was taken by a Bernoloth named Daru Ib Shamik, who whispered such terrible secrets in Maeldur's ear it corrupted him, for the Bernoloth's words had power back then. It is through the grace of the Maeldur that the Batazu and Tanari are able to teleport across the planes at will, because any name of a fiend that it knows, and it knows all of them because Arcanoloths whisper the true names of every newly created fiend in its ears, it can allow to teleport when they request it. These fiends believe it is an innate ability, but in reality, they are subconsciously requesting the Maeldur to teleport them from their current location to the destination in their mind. The Yugoloths decided that they no longer needed their creations, and that it's time to rid them once and for all, but the first step is to weaken them. They will remove their ability to teleport at will, and only give it back to fiends who pledge allegiance to them. The Yugoloths don't want them to know it was their fault in the first place, because then no one would swear fealty to them, so they decide to make it look as if it was done by something out of their control. They leak the information about the Maeldur to the Celestials and the upper planes, in hopes that they orchestrate the plan for them. During the adventure Squaring the Circle from the book Hellbound the Blood War, that's exactly what happens. A priest approaches the player characters with the task of dealing with the Maeldur. The player characters dump the Maeldur into the river Styx, causing it to forget all the names of the fiends so that it no longer can grant them the ability to teleport without air. The players and the Celestials believe they were doing good by robbing evil fiends of a powerful ability, but truly they unwittingly serve the greater plans of the Yugoloths. Now, I'm not exactly sure how Yugoloths were able to keep this ability, since if the Maeldur forgot everything, it would still forget theirs, but my guess is either the Yugoloths don't rely on the Maeldur, they actually do get it innately, or it might be just that after they dumped the Maeldur, they took it back and then they gave it the names of all Yugoloths, and they just didn't give it the true names of all demons and devils. But I'm not 100% sure. Maybe the answer is in that book. I haven't read the entire adventure, I kind of just skimmed it, so if anyone knows, let me know. Anyway, that is Yugoloths. Obviously, I haven't said everything about them. I'm going to come out with another video that's going to talk about their hierarchy, the ordering of it, how they're promoted, and what each type of Yugoloth, what role they play in their society. But other than that, that's everything about the Yugoloths throughout all 5 editions of D&D. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more D&D lore, and if there's anything about Yugoloths that I missed or that I got wrong, let me know in the comments. I want to be well informed. Thank you guys so much for watching.